It wasn't supposed to be me. The entire pack gathered to watch my sister become Luna. She was perfect, prepared and chosen. I was just the spare. But when the alpha stepped forward, the bond didn't snap to her. It snapped to me, in front of everyone. And in that single moment, my sister didn't just lose her mate. She lost her future. And I became the storm that shattered it. My name is Leora Hale. And this is what happened the night the moon chose the wrong sister. Chapter 1. The wrong sister. It wasn't supposed to be me. The entire crescent moon pack gathered beneath silver lanterns for my sister's mating ceremony. Torches lined the courtyard. Musicians played softly. The air carried the scent of jasmine and anticipation. Tonight my sister Alara would become Luna. Alara the perfect daughter. Alara the elegant one. Alara the chosen one. I stood near the back of the courtyard in a simple blue dress, unnoticed as always. My name is Leora Hale. In our house I was the quieter twin. The less impressive one, the spare. Stand straight, my mother whispered sharply as she passed me. Do not embarrass this family tonight. I lowered my chin obediently. I had no intention of embarrassing anyone. This was Alara's night. And I had learned long ago how to shrink. The courtyard doors opened. Silence fell instantly. Alpha Cashin Veilheart stepped inside. He moved like someone who never rushed. Tall, composed, dark suit tailored perfectly and eyes calm but alert. The kind of alpha who didn't need to roar to be obeyed. The pack bowed their heads respectfully. Alara stepped forward in white silk, glowing with confidence. She had trained for this, prepared for this and expected this. The alliance between Crescent Moon and Veilheart territory depended on this bond. I watched quietly as Cashin approached the ceremonial platform. His gaze passed over the crowd. Then it stopped on me. For a split second I thought I imagined it. But the air shifted. A sudden pull tightened inside my chest. Sharp, ancient and unavoidable. No, my breath caught. Not here and not tonight. Alara reached Cashin's side, smiling radiantly. Elder Morin raised his staff. Under the blessing of the moon goddess, we witnessed the sacred bond between Alpha Cashin Veilheart and Alara Hale. The pack murmured in approval. Cashin turned toward Alara. She lifted her chin, waiting for the bond to seal. And then it happened. The bond snapped. But not toward her. It slammed into me. The force of it stole the air from my lungs. A burning thread shot from Cashin's chest straight into mine. My knees nearly buckled. The entire courtyard went silent. Cashin's head turned sharply. His eyes locked onto me. Not confusion but recognition. Alara's smile faltered. Cashin, she whispered. He didn't answer. He stepped away from her. One slow step. Then another. The crowd began murmuring. My heart pounded violently. This couldn't be happening. I had never spoken to him privately. Never stood near him. Never given him reason. Yet the bond was unmistakable, heavy, complete and fated. Alara is your chosen mate, my father said quickly, stepping forward with forced calm. This is a moment of nerves. Cashin's voice was steady. No. One word. Quiet and final. Alara's expression cracked. What do you mean no? She demanded softly. Cashin did not look at her. He walked down the platform steps. Toward me. Every step echoed. Every wolf watched. My body refused to move. I wanted to disappear. But the bond held me in place. He stopped in front of me. Close enough that I could see the faint gold in his dark eyes. Close enough to feel the warmth radiating from him. Leora Hale, he said evenly. My name sounded different in his voice. Stronger. My voice barely worked. The courtyard felt suffocating. My mother gasped behind me. Alara is the one chosen for this alliance. Cashin's gaze never left mine. The moon chooses, he said calmly. The words hit like thunder. Alara stepped forward, anger flashing across her face. This is a mistake, she insisted. You were announced for me. Cashin finally turned toward her. There is no mistake. The bond pulsed violently between us, alive and unbreakable. Alara's eyes filled with humiliation. You planned this, she hissed at me. I didn't, I whispered shaken. I swear I didn't. You've always wanted what was mine. The accusation cut deep. Because it wasn't true. I had never wanted her life. I only wanted peace. Cashin stepped slightly in front of me. Not aggressively. Not dramatically. Just enough to shield. His voice remained calm. Blame does not alter fate. The courtyard erupted in whispers. This will destroy the alliance. The pack will fracture. The wrong sister? My father's face darkened. You will reject this bond, he said sharply to Cashin. The temperature in the air dropped. Cashin's posture did not change. I do not reject my mate. There was silence. Absolute silence. Alara staggered back as if struck. You're choosing her over Crescent Moon? I am acknowledging what already exists. The way he said it, not passionate. Not defensive but certain. The bond flared again stronger. My chest tightened with emotion I didn't understand. Why me? I had done nothing. I was no one. And yet, the most powerful alpha in the region stood before the entire pack and refused to deny me. My mother's voice shook. She is not prepared to be Luna. Cashin looked at me then. Not assessing. Not doubting. Seeing. That remains to be seen. Something in his tone settled the chaos inside me. Not possession. Not pride but protection. Alara's tears finally fell. This is humiliation, she whispered. And I felt it too. Because I hadn't meant to take anything. I hadn't meant to be chosen. But the moon did not ask permission. The elder cleared his throat nervously. This ceremony cannot proceed as planned. No, Cashin agreed quietly. He extended his hand toward me. Not demanding. Inviting. Walk with me. The courtyard held its breath. If I took his hand, everything would change. My sister would never forgive me. My parents would resent me. The alliance would shatter. But the bond burned with truth. And for the first time in my life, I was not invisible. I placed my hand in his. The moment our skin touched, the bond sealed fully. A soft silver glow shimmered briefly between us. Gasps echoed across the courtyard. Alara's sob broke the silence. Cashin didn't look back. He guided me down the lantern-lit path away from the platform. Away from the life my sister had prepared for herself. And into something I had never imagined. As we reached the edge of the courtyard, he stopped. The noise behind us faded. Are you frightened? He asked quietly. Yes, I admitted. His thumb brushed lightly against my knuckles. Good. I blinked. Good. It means you understand the weight of this. His gaze softened just slightly. I will not let you be harmed. The promise was simple. Not dramatic. Not loud but steady. Behind us, the pack remained in chaos. My sister's ceremony lay in ruins. And I had just become the center of a storm I never asked for. But deep inside, beneath the fear, one truth remained undeniable. The moon had not made a mistake. And neither had he. The fallout. The silence in the east wing of our estate felt heavier than the chaos in the courtyard. Cashin released my hand only when we reached the guest chamber prepared for him before the ceremony. He did not rush inside. He turned to face me. The lantern light cast shadows across his sharp features. You may still choose to walk away, he said calmly. The words stunned me. You would allow that? I would not force a bond. The honesty in his voice unsettled me more than possession would have. Behind us, footsteps approached quickly. Alara demands to see her. My mother's voice snapped. Cashin's expression hardened slightly. She is not to be distressed tonight. I am her mother. And I am her mate. The quiet authority in his tone left no room for argument. I had never heard anyone speak to my mother that way. The doors burst open anyway. Alara stormed in, mascara streaking her cheeks, white silk wrinkled and ruined. How could you? She demanded, staring at me as if I had stabbed her. I didn't do anything, I said softly. You've always envied me. I never. You stood there pretending to be small. Pretending to be invisible. Waiting. Each accusation landed like a stone. Cashin stepped slightly in front of me again. Alara, he said evenly, this was not manipulation. Stay out of this, she snapped. It is precisely my concern. Her eyes flashed with fury. You humiliated me in front of the entire pack. Cashin did not react emotionally. The bond did. Alara turned to me again. You could reject him, she said through clenched teeth. You could fix this. The word reject made my stomach twist. I won't, Cashin answered before I could. Alara laughed bitterly. You don't even know her. Cashin's gaze shifted briefly toward me. Not yet. The honesty of it made my chest tighten. Alara's voice dropped dangerously. This will destroy our alliance. My father entered behind her, face cold and calculating. The crescent moon pack expected stability tonight. Cashin met his gaze steadily. You will still have it. Not with her, my father said sharply. That hurt more than my sister's anger. Not with her. As if I were a flaw. A mistake. Cashin's voice lowered slightly. You speak of her as if she lacks value. She lacks preparation, my father corrected. Alara has trained for diplomacy since childhood. And Leora? Cashin asked. Silence followed. Because no one had trained me. No one had prepared me for anything. I had always been the second daughter. The quieter one. The one who adapted. Cashin looked back at me. Preparation can be taught, he said calmly. Blood cannot. The room went still. My father frowned. What do you mean? Cashin's expression did not change. I mean the moon does not err. The statement sounded simple. But there was something beneath it. Something intentional. Alara's voice cracked. You planned this. I did not. But you're not surprised, she accused. Cashin did not answer immediately. And that silence felt deliberate. My father's eyes narrowed. You knew there was a possibility. Cashin finally spoke. I knew the bond would reveal truth. Truth? The word echoed strangely. What truth? I whispered. He looked at me carefully. That remains to be seen. The answer unsettled everyone, including me. Alara stepped back as if she could no longer stand to breathe the same air. This isn't over, she said coldly. Then she left. My mother followed, shooting me a look that felt like disownment. My father lingered. If you embarrass this family further, he said quietly to me, you will not find protection here. Protection. As if I had ever truly had it. When the door closed, silence returned. Cashin did not move immediately. You handled that well, he said calmly. I didn't handle anything. You didn't collapse. That was not praise. It was observation. I wrapped my arms around myself. I never wanted to take anything from her. You did not take, he said softly. You were chosen. Why? I asked. For the first time something flickered in his eyes. Not doubt. Consideration. When I arrived tonight, he said slowly, I felt a presence in the courtyard. My pulse quickened. Not Alara's. I swallowed. What kind of presence? Ancient. The word sent a strange chill through me. I've never left Crescent territory, I said. This is not about territory. He stepped slightly closer. Close enough that the bond hummed softly between us. You carry something, he continued. I carry embarrassment, I replied bitterly. A faint, almost invisible curve touched his lips. No. He studied my face carefully. As if you were born under a different sky. The words struck something deep inside me. I didn't know why. I'm just Leora, I whispered. I doubt that, he said quietly. A knock interrupted the moment. A servant entered nervously. Alpha, the council elders request immediate discussion. Cashin nodded once. He turned back to me. I must address the political damage. I understand. You will remain here. It wasn't an order. It was protection. As he moved toward the door, I asked softly, would you have rejected me? He stopped. Did not turn immediately. No. The answer was immediate. Certain. Then he looked back at me. Even if it cost me alliance. The bond warmed at his words. Not dramatic. Not overwhelming but steady. When he left, the room felt larger and lonelier. I moved to the window overlooking the courtyard. Workers were dismantling the ceremonial platform. The white silk decorations lay crumpled on the ground. Alara's dreams scattered like debris. And I had been the storm that destroyed it. But beneath the guilt, something else stirred. A strange familiarity. As if tonight had not been accident. As if something long hidden had finally stepped into light. Down in the courtyard, I saw Cashin speaking to the elders. Calm, unshaken, and unapologetic. He stood firm for me, and that frightened me more than rejection ever could. Because if the moon truly chose me, then the life I had quietly accepted as lesser was about to change forever. Chapter 3. The Truth in the Blood. The council meeting lasted 3 hours. I knew because I counted every lantern that burned out in the courtyard while I waited. No one came to check on me. No one from my family. Only a young servant brought tea and avoided my eyes. When the door finally opened, Cashin entered alone. His expression was calm, but his eyes were sharper than before. "They are afraid," he said simply. "Of me?" I asked. "Of what you represent." I let out a soft, humorless breath. "I represent humiliation." "You represent uncertainty," he corrected. That sounded worse. He removed his jacket slowly, draping it over the chair. "The elders asked about your birth." My stomach tightened. "My birth?" "Yes." "Why?" Cashin stepped closer, studying me in that quiet way he had. "When the bond sealed tonight, it reacted unusually." "How?" It did not feel new. The word sent a chill through me. "What does that mean?" It felt recognized. Recognized. As if something long waiting had finally aligned. "I've never left Crescent Territory," I repeated. "This isn't about geography." His gaze lingered on my face. "When were you born?" I blinked. "You don't know." "I know your official records." "Then why ask?" "Because the moon does not misplace its power." "Power?" I almost laughed. "I don't have power." "You may not know you do." Before I could answer, the door opened abruptly. Alara stood there again. But this time she wasn't crying. She was furious. "You're questioning her birth now?" she demanded. Cashin's tone remained even. "The elders are." Alara's eyes locked onto me. "Tell them the truth." "I don't know what you're talking about." "You were sick the week we were born," she said sharply. I frowned. "What?" "Mother nearly died delivering us." "That's normal for twins." "We're not identical." The statement hung strangely in the air. "We were born minutes apart," I replied. Alara laughed bitterly. "That's what they told you." My pulse quickened. "What are you implying?" Alara stepped further into the room. "You think it's coincidence the Alpha's bond ignored me?" Cashin's gaze darkened slightly. "Alara." "No," she snapped. "You want truth? Let's talk truth." He turned to me. "Did you ever notice how you don't look like father?" The comment hit harder than it should have. "I have mother's features." "You have neither." Silence swallowed the room. My mind replayed old memories. Servants whispering. My mother avoiding certain conversations. The way elders sometimes studied me strangely during festivals. "You're being cruel," I said quietly. "Am I?" she asked. "Or are you finally seeing it?" Cashin stepped between us again. "That's enough." Alara's breathing was uneven. "They're checking the archives," she said to me. "Old birth records. Midwife logs." My stomach dropped. "Why?" "Because if she isn't truly Crescent blood," Alara said coldly, "then this entire alliance was built on a lie." Cashin's jaw tightened slightly. "Speculation solves nothing." Alara stared at him. "You weren't surprised tonight." He did not answer immediately. That silence again. That deliberate restraint. "You suspected," she whispered. Cashin finally spoke. "I suspected the bond would reveal something. And now it has," she shot back. She looked at me one last time. "You don't belong here." Then she left. The door closed. The room felt smaller. I struggled to breathe evenly. "She's wrong," I said quickly. "I grew up here." "Yes." "I trained here." "Yes." "I am Crescent." Cashin stepped closer. "Perhaps," he said softly, "but you may also be more." I shook my head. "I don't want more." His voice lowered. "Wanting has nothing to do with fate." The bond pulsed gently between us. Not overwhelming. Comforting. "Did you know?" I asked quietly. "Know what?" "That something was different about me." He considered the question. "When I entered the courtyard tonight, the bond pulled before I saw you." My heart skipped. It felt older than ceremony. The way he said it wasn't romantic. It was thoughtful and measured. As if he had been studying a pattern long before tonight. "You were announced for Alara," I reminded him. "Yes." "And yet you felt something else?" "Yes." "Why didn't you say anything?" He met my gaze steadily. "Because I do not accuse without proof." There was intelligence in that answer. Not recklessness. "You let the moon confirm it publicly," I realized softly. Yes. The realization unsettled me. You risked humiliation. I do not fear humiliation, he said calmly. I fear false bonds. The sincerity in his voice made something inside me shift. This wasn't about choosing the more beautiful sister. Or political rebellion. He had been watching and waiting for confirmation. A knock interrupted us again. An elder entered, pale and uneasy. Alpha, he said quietly. We found discrepancies. My blood turned cold. What discrepancies? Cashin asked. The elder looked at me carefully. The midwife who delivered the Hale twins recorded only one child. Silence. Impossible, I whispered. The second birth was logged hours later, the elder continued. Under a different notation. My pulse roared in my ears. A different notation? Cashin repeated. Yes. The elder swallowed. The child was brought from the border. The world tilted slightly. Brought. I whispered. Yes. The room felt too small. Too loud. Too unreal. Brought from where? Cashin asked quietly. The elder's eyes dropped. From Valeheart territory. The bond between us flared sharply. Bright. Unmistakable. Alara's words echoed in my mind. You don't belong here. Cashin looked at me. Not shocked. Not triumphant. Understanding. You were not misplaced, he said softly. You were hidden. My knees weakened slightly. I was switched. It appears so. The elder nodded. The original Hale twin likely died during childbirth. The words felt like knives. And I replaced her? I whispered. Yes. The room went silent again. Not with chaos. With revelation. I wasn't the spare. I wasn't the overlooked twin. I was never meant to be Hale at all. Cashin stepped closer. His voice remained steady. You were born Valeheart. The bond pulsed again. Stronger now. Not random. Not accidental. Recognized. As if something ancient had simply returned home. Chapter 4. The sister who was never meant to rule. The word Valeheart echoed in my mind long after the elder left. Born Valeheart, hidden and switched. My entire identity cracked in a single night. Cashin did not move away from me. He did not crowd me either. He simply stood close enough that I could feel the steady warmth of the bond. Why? I whispered. Political protection, he answered quietly. For who? For you. Before I could process that, the doors opened again. This time both my parents entered. They had heard. Of course they had. My mother's face was pale. My father's composure was barely holding. You had no right to search our records, my father said sharply to Cashin. I had every right, Cashin replied calmly. She is my mate. She is our daughter. Cashin's gaze sharpened. Is she? The question cut through the room. Silence followed. My mother's hands trembled. We loved her, she whispered. That wasn't the question, Cashin said evenly. I felt like I was watching my own life unravel from outside my body. Tell me, I said quietly. My father avoided my eyes. The alliance between Crescent Moon and Valeheart territory was unstable 22 years ago, he began. That's not what I asked. He inhaled sharply. A child was born on Valeheart land during a border skirmish. My pulse thundered. The mother died. Cashin's jaw tightened slightly. And, he asked. And the child carried a rare blood marker. Blood marker. Something inside me stirred. What kind of marker? I asked. My father hesitated. The Valeheart royal line. The room felt smaller and colder. Royal. I whispered. Cashin spoke quietly. The founding Alpha line. My heart pounded. You're saying I? Yes, my father interrupted sharply. You were born into the primary Valeheart bloodline. The bond flared warmly between Cashin and me. Recognition. Ancient recognition. But there was unrest, my mother added quickly. Your birth mother had enemies. So you took me, I said. We protected you, she insisted. You replaced your dying twin, my father said, voice tight. The midwife agreed. The border conflict made it possible. The truth crashed into place. Alara was never truly my twin. I was placed beside her. Raised beside her. But never truly belonging. You lied to both of us, I whispered. My mother's eyes filled with tears. We saved you. You erased me. Ilara's voice echoed faintly from the hallway. Saved her? You destroyed me. She stormed into the room again. Her face was no longer just angry. It was shattered. I was trained to rule, she said, voice trembling. I was told I was Crescent's future. My father's shoulders sagged. You were. No, Ilara snapped. She was. The weight of that truth broke something in her. Cashin stepped forward. Ilara, you were never deceived about your worth. She laughed bitterly. Easy for you to say. The moon didn't reject you. The word reject lingered painfully. You don't understand what it feels like, she continued. To stand there, chosen your entire life, and then erased. I met her gaze. For the first time that night I didn't feel only guilt. I felt something else. Understanding. I didn't ask for this, I said softly. Neither did I, she cried. Silence stretched between us. Two sisters. One by blood. One by circumstance. Both victims of decisions made before we could speak. Cashin's voice cut gently through the tension. This was not a competition. It was always a competition, Ilara whispered. Her voice cracked completely. He turned to our parents. You let me believe I was special. You are, my mother said desperately. No, Ilara replied. I was convenient. The word stung. But as I understood it, I had been convenient too, just in a different way. Ilara looked at me again. You don't even want this. He was right, I didn't. But the bond between Cashin and me pulsed with undeniable truth. I didn't want it, I said honestly. But it is mine. The words surprised even me. Not stolen. Not borrowed but mine. Cashin's gaze shifted slightly. Approval, not pride but recognition. Ilara noticed it too. You already believe her, she said quietly to him. I believe the moon, Cashin replied. She closed her eyes briefly. Then walked out without another word. This time she didn't slam the door. She just left. The room felt heavier afterward. My parents looked smaller somehow. Why didn't you tell me? I asked them. You were safer not knowing, my father said. Safe from what? He glanced at Cashin. From becoming a target. Cashin's expression hardened subtly. I would have protected her. You were a child, my father replied. And now? Cashin asked calmly. Now was different. Now the bond was sealed. Now the truth was public. Now hiding was no longer possible. My mother approached me slowly. We loved you, she whispered. I know, I said quietly. And I did. But love built on secrecy still hurts. Cashin stepped slightly closer again. Not claiming. Grounding. You are not obligated to remain here tonight, he said softly to me. The implication was clear. I could leave Crescent Land. Return to Veilheart territory. To my birthright. To my unknown history. I looked around the room. At the walls I grew up within. At the parents who raised me. At the sister who hated me. Then at him. You said I was hidden, I whispered. Yes. From enemies? Yes. And now? Now, he said quietly, you are visible. The word carried weight. The bond warmed again. Strong and steady. I exhaled slowly. If I go with you, I said, everything changes. Yes. If I stay, everything fractures. Yes. There was no easy choice. Only truth. And truth had already begun reshaping my life. I lifted my chin. Then I will not hide anymore. Cashin extended his hand again. Just like in the courtyard. Inviting, not demanding. This time I didn't hesitate. I placed my hand in his. And as the bond settled deeper, I felt something I had never felt before. Not fear. Not guilt. Not invisibility. Belonging. Chapter 5. The territory that was always mine. The journey to Veilheart territory took 2 days. 2 days of silence. 2 days of watching the landscape slowly change. The air felt different the moment we crossed the border. Sharper, cleaner and older. Cashin noticed my reaction immediately. You feel it, he said quietly from horseback beside me. Yes. I didn't know how to explain it. The trees seemed taller. The wind heavier with meaning. Like the land recognized me before I recognized it. We reached the Veilheart stronghold just before sunset. Stone walls rose high against the mountains. Banners bearing a silver crescent wolf fluttered in the wind. The gates opened slowly, and every warrior inside the courtyard stopped moving. They were not bowing. They were staring at me. Whispers began immediately. She looks like her. It can't be. The lost bloodline? Lost bloodline. The words made my pulse quicken. Cashin dismounted first, then turned and extended his hand to help me down. The gesture was simple, steady, and public. When my feet touched Veilheart soil, something inside me shifted. A faint warmth spread through my chest. The bond between us hummed softly, but beneath it something deeper stirred. An older thread, subtle and familiar. An elderly woman stepped forward from the crowd. Her silver hair was braided tightly, her eyes sharp despite her age. "Alpha," she greeted Cashin, bowing her head. "Elder Mira," he replied. Her gaze moved to me, and she froze. Not confused, recognizing. She approached slowly, stopped only a few steps away. "Show me your wrist," she said gently. I hesitated. Cashin nodded once. "It's all right." I extended my hand. Elder Mira turned my wrist upward. The moment her fingers touched my skin, a faint silver mark shimmered just beneath the surface. I gasped. I had never seen it before, but now it glowed faintly. A crescent wolf, identical to the banner above the gates. The courtyard erupted in whispers. "It's real. The mark. The founding line." My heart pounded. "What is it?" I asked softly. Elder Myra's voice trembled. "The birthmark of the first Veilheart Luna." Silence fell like thunder. Cashin's posture remained calm, but I felt the bond pull stronger. "It appears when the bloodline awakens," Mira continued. "I've never seen it," I whispered, "because you were not home." The words settled deeply. Not home. Till now. A group of warriors knelt suddenly. Not commanded. Instinctively. My breath caught. "I didn't ask for this," I said quickly. "You didn't need to," Mira replied. Cashin stepped slightly closer to me. "They kneel to bloodline," he said quietly. "Not to me. To heritage. To history." And yet their eyes were on me. Elder Mira straightened. "She carries the primary Veilheart line," she announced. "Stronger than we believed." Stronger? The word frightened me. I turned to Cashin. "You knew about the mark." "I suspected." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because it does not appear until recognition." Recognition. Of territory. Of lineage. Of bond. The courtyard slowly dispersed under Myra's guidance. But the stares lingered. When we were finally alone inside the stronghold, the silence felt different. Not hostile. Anticipating. Cashin closed the heavy chamber doors behind us. "You're quiet," he observed. "I was raised Crescent." "Yes. And now I'm something else." "Yes." There was no comfort in his agreement. Only truth. I stepped toward the window overlooking the mountains. "Why was I hidden?" I asked. "Your birth mother was the last direct descendant of the founding Luna," he explained. "She refused to surrender the territory during border unrest. And she died for it." "Yes." The information settled heavily. "You said I was hidden for protection." "Yes." "Protection from who?" He didn't answer immediately, and that silence felt dangerous. "From rival alphas who would eliminate the bloodline," he said finally. The air grew colder. "So if they know I'm here, they will come." The honesty steadied me. Not comfort. Preparation. The bond pulsed gently again. I turned to face him fully. "Why didn't you reject the bond?" I asked softly. "You could have protected the alliance." He walked closer. Not rushed. Not dramatic. Just steady. "Because I do not build power on false foundations." His eyes held mine. "And because when the bond struck it felt inevitable." The word made my pulse skip. "I wasn't meant for Alara," he continued quietly. "I was meant for you." The way he said it wasn't romantic performance. It was recognition. I swallowed. "Do you regret it?" "No." "Immediate." "Certain." The bond warmed again. He lifted his hand slowly. Paused near my cheek. "Hey, I." The question startled me. "Yes." His fingers brushed gently against my skin. "You are not the spare," he said quietly. The words struck deeper than he realized. I never wanted to be anyone's first, I whispered. His thumb brushed lightly beneath my eye. You were always first, he corrected. There was no grand declaration. No dramatic claim. Just quiet certainty. A knock interrupted the moment. A guard entered urgently. Alpha, he said. We've received word from Crescent Territory. Cashin's expression shifted instantly and focused. Speak. The Hale family has declared the bond illegitimate. My stomach dropped. What? I breathed. They claim birth records were falsified. Of course they did. Protect reputation. Protect alliance. Cashin's jaw tightened slightly. And more, the guard continued. Ridgefall Alpha has sent a message. Cashin's gaze darkened. What message? He intends to challenge the bloodline. Silence fell heavily. The threat was clear. If Ridgefall believed the primary Veilheart heir had resurfaced, they would not accept it quietly. Cashin dismissed the guard. The door closed again. I exhaled slowly. I didn't even know who I was yesterday. And today, he said calmly, you are the center of 3 territories. Fear crept up my spine. What if I'm not ready? You will be. His voice remained steady and grounded. And if I fail? He stepped closer. You won't. The bond pulsed once more. Strong and unbreakable. For the first time since the ceremony, I didn't feel like the wrong sister. I felt like the missing piece. But somewhere beyond Veilheart's mountains, a rival alpha was already preparing to test whether the hidden heir deserved to stand. Chapter 6. The alpha who refused to bend. The mark on my wrist didn't fade. It glowed faintly all through the night. Not bright enough to alarm the territory, but enough to remind me that nothing about my life was quiet anymore. Veilheart slept lightly. I learned that quickly. Even at dawn, warriors trained in the courtyard. Council members whispered in corners. Servants watched me with curiosity instead of indifference. I was no longer invisible. And that frightened me more than Ridgefall's threat. Cashin stood at the head of the council chamber when I entered that morning. 12 elders sat around the stone table. All watching. All measuring. Elder Torin spoke first. The bloodline is confirmed. His tone was respectful, but cautious. Confirmation does not erase instability, another elder added. Cashin did not sit. He stood, calm and unmoving. What instability? He asked evenly. You were announced for Crescent Alliance, Torin replied. Now that alliance fractures. It fractured because it was false, Cashin answered. Murmurs followed. I remained silent near the wall, observing and learning. Elder Mira stepped forward. The land has acknowledged her. Yes, Torin agreed. But land does not negotiate treaties. So that was it. This wasn't about belief. It was about politics. She was raised Crescent, one elder said bluntly. The words stung. Cashin's gaze sharpened slightly. And yet the land responded, he said. Silence followed. The elders weren't challenging the bond. They were testing Cashin. Testing whether he would waver. Ridgefall has increased patrols, a guard reported from the doorway. The room shifted instantly. There it is, Torin muttered. Pressure. Cashin finally sat slowly and measured. We do not bend because another alpha circles, he said. Bending preserves territory, Torin replied. Truth preserves authority. His voice did not rise. But the chamber quieted completely. That was the first time I understood something clearly. Cashin was not loud. He was immovable. The council dismissed shortly after. Not fully convinced, but not defiant either. When the chamber emptied, I remained. You defended me, I said quietly. I defended legitimacy, he corrected. I folded my arms slightly. That sounds less personal. He studied me for a moment. It is both. The honesty disarmed me. You didn't hesitate in there, I said. No. What if this destabilizes everything? Then we stabilize it. As if it were simple. As if power were something you adjusted with steady hands. I moved toward the window overlooking the courtyard. Warriors were training harder than usual. Ridgefall's presence was already affecting morale. I don't want them to resent me, I admitted. They won't. You can't guarantee that. No, he agreed. But I can guarantee something else. What? That I will not allow you to stand alone. The words settled into me slowly. Not dramatic. Not romantic. Steady like him. There was a knock at the door. A scout entered, breathless. Alpha. Ridgefall has sent envoys to Crescent Territory. My pulse quickened. Elara, I whispered. Cashin noticed immediately. You think they'll approach her? They already have. He didn't deny it. He simply turned back to the scout. Continue border watch. Double patrols. The scout left. The silence between us thickened. If they offer her protection, I said quietly, she might take it. Yes. And if she does? Then Ridgefall gains narrative. Narrative? Not just territory. Control of perception. They'll say you stole her future, I said. They already are. I turned to him. You knew this would happen. Yes. And you chose it anyway. Yes. The certainty in his voice steadied something inside me. But doubt lingered. What if I'm not enough? I asked softly. For what? For this. For territory. For bloodline. For bond. For him. Cashin stepped closer. Close enough that the air shifted between us. You are not here because you are enough, he said quietly. You are here because you are true. The distinction mattered. Truth doesn't require perfection. It requires alignment. A faint warmth moved through the bond again. Not fiery but grounding. Footsteps echoed in the corridor outside her. The chamber doors opened abruptly. A guard entered pale. Alpha. Cashin didn't move. Report. Ridgefall riders have been seen along the northern tree line. The room went very still. How many? Cashin asked calmly. More than scouts. The tension finally solidified. This was no longer rumor. No longer political maneuver. It was movement. I exhaled slowly. It's starting. Yes, Cashin replied. He didn't look afraid. He looked prepared. Will they attack? I asked. No. The certainty surprised me. They will test. He moved toward the door, then paused, and looked back at me. They will test your legitimacy. The weight of that settled deeply. Are you afraid? He asked quietly. Yes, I admitted. Good. I almost laughed. You said that before. And it remains true. He stepped closer once more. Lowered his voice. They are not testing whether you belong. They are testing whether I will bend. The realization struck hard. He wasn't the only one under scrutiny. Ridgefall wasn't just challenging bloodline. They were challenging his resolve. And he had not bent once. Not in the council. Not in the courtyard. Not in front of Crescent. Not for politics. Not for convenience. Not for fear. Then we don't bend, I said softly. A faint, almost invisible smile touched his mouth. No. Outside, a horn sounded from the northern wall. Not an alarm but a signal. Cashin's eyes darkened slightly. They've arrived. And just like that the test began. Chapter 7. The Challenge Under Silver Sky. Ridgefall arrived at dawn. They did not sneak. They did not request entry. They rode straight to Valeheart's gates in full formation. A display of power. Cashin stood beside me on the balcony overlooking the courtyard. Do not react impulsively, he said quietly. I won't. But my pulse was already racing. The gates opened slowly. Alpha Darius of Ridgefall stepped forward. He was broader than Cashin. Louder in presence. Eyes sharp with calculation. He looked at me as if measuring value. So, Darius said, voice carrying across stone, the hidden heir returns. I kept my chin lifted. Cashin remained still beside me. You cross into Valeheart territory without invitation, Cashin said calmly. I come with claim, Darius replied. The word sent tension rippling through the courtyard. State it, Cashin said. Darius's gaze never left me. The founding Valeheart bloodline was pledged to Ridgefall protection during the border wars. My stomach tightened. What protection? I asked. Darius smirked slightly. Political marriage. The courtyard murmured. Cashin did not move. That agreement died with the war, he said evenly. Darius shrugged. Blood contracts do not dissolve so easily. My hands tightened at my sides. I was a child, I said. You were an asset, Darius corrected. The word burned. Cashin stepped forward slightly. She is not an asset. Darius's smile thinned. She carries leverage. The tension in the air thickened. If the Veilheart heir has resurfaced, Darius continued, Richval has the right to secure her allegiance. Secure? I asked coldly. Through union. The implication was clear. The bond between Cassian and me flared sharply. Darius noticed it. Ah, he said slowly. So it's true. The bond sealed. Cassian's voice lowered. It did. Convenient, Darius replied. For you. For fate, Cassian corrected. Darius laughed softly. You believe in fate. I believe in power. His eyes returned to me. Do you know what your bloodline represents? Yes, I answered steadily. Then you know it destabilizes this region. I did not destabilize anything, I said calmly. I was hidden. Darius tilted his head slightly. Hidden things are dangerous. The courtyard fell silent. Darius stepped forward. I challenged the legitimacy of her claim. Cassian's posture sharpened. On what grounds? Trial of blood. A ripple of shock passed through the warriors. Trial of blood was ancient law, combat, demonstration and proof of dominance. You intend to fight her? Cassian asked evenly. No, Darius replied smoothly. I intend to test her. My heart pounded. How? Ancestral resonance. The word sounded strange. Elder Mira stepped forward. You dare invoke that ritual? If she carries the founding bloodline, Darius said, the land will answer her. The courtyard went still, because everyone knew what that meant. The mountains themselves. The Veilheart crest. The ancient stone beneath our feet. If the bloodline was true, it would respond. If not, the claim would fracture publicly. Cassian's voice lowered. You are provoking instability. I am clarifying truth. Darius looked at me again. Unless she fears it. I stepped forward before Cassian could respond. I don't fear truth. His eyes flickered with interest. Then step into the circle. The courtyard cleared quickly. A wide stone ring marked the ancient ritual ground. I felt the bond hum beside me. Cassian leaned slightly closer. You don't have to do this. If I don't, I said quietly, they'll never stop. He studied me for a moment, then nodded once. Trust your instincts. I stepped into the stone circle. The air shifted immediately heavier and charged. Darius stood outside the boundary. This ritual answers only blood, he said. Begin, Elder Mira instructed. I closed my eyes. The mountains loomed behind the stronghold. The wind brushed against my skin. I focused inward. On the mark at my wrist. On the warmth that had awakened when I arrived. For a moment nothing happened. Darius smiled faintly. Perhaps the legend was exaggerated. My pulse spiked. Doubt crept in. What if I wasn't strong enough? What if I was just... Then the ground trembled. Not violently but undeniably. A low hum vibrated through the stone circle. My wrist burned gently. The silver crescent mark flared to life. Light spread across the carved wolf symbol beneath my feet. Gasps erupted around the courtyard. The banners along the walls lifted as if caught in sudden wind. The mountains echoed faintly. A deep, resonant sound like distant thunder. Not destructive but recognizing. The land answered. Darius's smile disappeared. The warriors around us slowly lowered their heads. Not commanded but instinctive. The resonance deepened for one final pulse. Then settled. Silence followed. Elder Mira stepped forward slowly. The land has acknowledged her. Darius's jaw tightened. But he did not argue. He had his answer. He looked at me again. Not mocking this time but assessing. You are stronger than I expected, he admitted. I am exactly what I was born to be, I replied quietly. Cassian stepped into the circle beside me. The bond flared warmly between us. Darius noticed again. And you bind yourself to him, Darius said. I chose him, I answered. Cassian's hand brushed lightly against mine. Steady and grounded. Darius exhaled sharply. This is not finished. It rarely is, Cassian replied calmly. Richval's formation began withdrawing. But before Darius mounted his horse he said one final thing. There are others who will not accept this so peacefully. The warning lingered in the air long after they left. When the courtyard finally cleared, my knees weakened slightly. Cashin caught my elbow gently. You held steady. I was terrified. That is not weakness. He guided me toward the inner hall. As we walked, I realized something. I no longer felt like the wrong sister. I no longer felt like the hidden child. I felt rooted and recognized. But as we stepped inside, a servant rushed toward us, breathless. Alpha, she said urgently. Miss Alara has left Crescent Territory. My pulse stopped. Left. I repeated. She rode north before dawn. Toward Richfall lands. The realization hit like ice. Darius had not come alone. He had come informed. And my sister, desperate, humiliated, and wounded, had just stepped into the hands of a rival Alpha. Chapter 8. The sister who chose the enemy. Alara rode straight into Ridgefall territory. There was no mistake about it. Scouts confirmed her banner at their northern outpost before dusk. She requested protection, the messenger said quietly. Protection. The word twisted inside my chest. Cashin dismissed the council and turned to me. This is not your fault. She left because of me. She left because she was wounded, he corrected. The difference mattered. But it didn't ease the ache. If Ridgefall uses her, they will, Cashin said evenly. His calm didn't mean indifference. It meant calculation. And you? I asked. What about me? Will you declare war? His gaze held mine. Not yet. The restraint unsettled me. Alara is not an enemy, I said softly. She is leverage now. The truth cut deep. A servant entered again. Alpha, Ridgefall requests formal audience. Tomorrow. At the border. Cashin didn't hesitate. We will attend. The word settled firmly. He would not go without me. That night, sleep did not come easily. The bond between us remained steady. But beneath it, anxiety stirred. At dawn we rode north. The border clearing was cold and silent. Ridgefall warriors stood in disciplined formation. And at the center was Alara. She wore darker clothing now. No white silk. No innocence. She stood beside Darius. Not behind him. The sight hurt more than I expected. When we stopped a few paces away, Darius smiled faintly. You came quickly. You summoned quickly, Cashin replied calmly. Darius gestured toward Alara. She seeks sanctuary. I met her gaze. Alara. Her expression flickered. Then hardened. You took everything, she said quietly. I didn't take anything. You took the life I was raised for. You weren't raised for marriage, I said gently. You were raised for leadership. And you were born for it, she snapped. The air thickened. Darius observed silently. You're aligning with Ridgefall? I asked. I'm aligning with opportunity, she corrected. Cashin stepped slightly forward. What opportunity? Alara's chin lifted. Ridgefall recognizes my political skill. And in exchange? Cashin asked evenly. Darius answered. She will advise my counsel. I looked at Alara carefully. You trust him? She hesitated. Only briefly. He values strength. The word stung. As if Crescent had not. Darius stepped forward slightly. Ridgefall does not discard assets. The reminder was intentional. I swallowed. Alara, this isn't protection. It's choice, she insisted. Silence stretched between us. The wind moved across the clearing. And then I felt it. A faint vibration beneath the earth. Subtle and uneasy. Cashin sensed it too. His posture shifted. Darius, he said calmly, you test more than borders. Darius smiled faintly. I test resolve. The vibration grew stronger. The ground beneath the clearing trembled slightly. Alara frowned. What is that? Elder Mira, who had accompanied us, inhaled sharply. It's reacting. To what? I asked. To divided blood. The realization hit slowly. The founding Veilheart bloodline had resurfaced. But the Hale household, where I had been raised, was part of the same ancestral line through political integration. Alara and I were tied by upbringing, by shared territory, and now that territory was split. The land didn't like it. The tremor deepened. Not violent, but warning. Darius's warriors shifted uneasily. This is not ritual, Darius muttered. No, Cashin said quietly. It is imbalance. Alara looked at me. For the first time since the ceremony, fear entered her eyes. What's happening? The silver mark on my wrist flared softly, warm and not aggressive. The vibration steadied slightly when I stepped closer to her. The moment I did, the tremor lessened. Darius noticed. You stabilize it. I felt it too. The land responded to proximity to unity, not conflict. Alara, I said softly, this isn't about winning. He swallowed. You think I want war? I think you're hurt. Silence. The wind softened. The vibration slowed. Darius's expression hardened slightly. You would rather she kneel to you? He asked. I don't want her kneeling, I said calmly. I want her standing. Alara's breathing trembled. Standing where? With me. The words were simple. Not dramatic. Not demanding. Cashin remained silent beside me, letting me speak, letting me lead. Darius's jaw tightened. You forget yourself, he said. No, Cashin replied quietly. She is remembering herself. The tremor finally stopped completely. The clearing fell still. Darius studied the scene carefully. You cannot have both territory and sentiment, he said. Watch me, I answered softly. He didn't smile this time. This is not finished. It never was. Ridgefall withdrew slowly. But Alara didn't move immediately. She stood between territories, between choices, between resentment and belonging. I don't forgive you, she said quietly. I don't ask you to. She looked at Cashin. You don't deserve her loyalty. Cashin didn't react defensively. I will earn it. The simplicity of his answer unsettled her more than pride would have. She stepped back toward Ridgefall's line. Not fully crossing. Not fully returning. Just lingering. When she finally rode away with Darius, the clearing felt quieter than before. Cashin turned to me. You reached her. Barely. That was enough. I exhaled slowly. I don't want her to become my enemy. She won't, he said calmly. You're very certain. I am very patient. The bond warmed gently between us, steady and grounded. But as we rode back toward Vale Heart, a single thought lingered heavily. The land responded to unity. And someone, somewhere, would soon realize that if Alara and I stood together, no rival alpha could fracture us. Which meant the next attack would not target territory. It would target the bond itself. Chapter 9. The bond they tried to break. The first sign was subtle. The bond felt thinner. Not broken. Not severed but strained. I noticed it the night after the border confrontation. Cashin stood beside the war table reviewing patrol routes, but the warmth that usually hummed quietly between us felt distant. You feel it too, I said softly. He didn't look up immediately. Yes. The honesty in his voice unsettled me. Is it weakening? No, he replied calmly. It's being interfered with. The word sent cold through my veins. By Ridgefall. Likely. Elder Mira entered without announcement. Her expression was tight. They've begun ritual disruption. Cashin's jaw hardened slightly. They wouldn't dare. They already have. She placed a small obsidian shard on the table. Dark. Carved with faint markings. Buried at the northern boundary, she explained. It distorts territorial resonance. I swallowed. And the bond. Territory and bloodline are connected, Mira said carefully. If they destabilize the land, they destabilize you. My pulse quickened. So this is about me. It is about power, Cashin corrected quietly. But I saw the concern in his eyes. For the first time since the ceremony, I felt unsure. What if this was too much? What if my existence was the fracture point? I can leave, I said suddenly. Cashin's gaze snapped to mine. No. If I'm the target. You are not a liability. His voice was steady, but firm. You are the foundation. The words settled heavily. Mira spoke gently. They want you to doubt. And I was. The bond flickered faintly again. A cold ripple moved through it. Cashin felt it too. He stepped closer instinctively. The warmth returned slightly. Stabilized. It responds to proximity, he murmured. Because it was sealed by choice, Mira said. Not politics. The implication was clear. They could make us doubt each other. They could fracture it from within. A guard rushed into the chamber. Alpha, news from Ridgefall. Cashin turned sharply. Speak. Ridgefall announces public claim that the Veilheart bloodline is unstable. Unstable. The insult was strategic. They're spreading doubt, I whispered. Yes, Cashin replied. And doubt spreads faster than war. By morning, whispers had reached Veilheart's outer villages. She wasn't raised here. She's untested. She divided Crescent. The bond flickered again. Not weaker, but pressured. I stood alone on the balcony that evening. The mountains felt heavier, less welcoming. Footsteps approached behind me. I didn't turn. Are you regretting it? I asked quietly. Cashin stepped beside me. No. Even now. Especially now. The certainty in his voice grounded me. But what if they're right? I asked softly. About what? That I destabilize everything. He turned fully toward me. You revealed truth. That doesn't make it easier. No, he agreed. It rarely does. The bond flickered again. This time sharper. Painfully sharp. I winced slightly. Cashin noticed immediately. They've placed another shard, he muttered. Before he could move, a horn sounded from the northern wall. An alarm. We rushed to the courtyard. Eldermira stood near the gate, her expression grim. They've moved closer. Ridgefall warriors were visible along the treeline. Not attacking. Just present. Provoking. Darius stepped forward slowly. You feel it, don't you? He called out. Cashin's posture hardened. Remove your ritual interference. Darius smiled faintly. I'm not touching your bond. Then what are you touching? I demanded. Darius's gaze shifted to me. Doubt. The word struck like a blade. You question your belonging, he continued calmly. And that weakens you. I clenched my hands. I don't. But the tremor in my voice betrayed me. Cashin stepped in front of me again. She stands. For now, Darius replied. And then, he gestured behind him. A familiar figure stepped forward. Alara. My breath caught. She stood in Ridgefall colors now. But her eyes were conflicted. Alara, I whispered. Darius spoke evenly. She has agreed to witness your instability. My stomach twisted. He was using her. Using our fracture. Alara, Cashin said calmly, you know this is manipulation. Darius didn't silence him. He wanted the tension. Alara stepped forward slowly. I didn't agree to sabotage, she said sharply. Only to observe, Darius replied. The bond flickered violently. A wave of cold shot through my chest. The silver mark on my wrist dimmed. The land trembled faintly again. Darius smiled slightly. You see. I stepped forward despite Cashin's hand brushing my arm. Stop, he murmured. No. I looked at Alara. You don't want this. She hesitated. You think this is easy for me? No. But it doesn't have to be war. Darius's voice cut in. Sentiment is weakness. Alara's jaw tightened. The land trembled again. Stronger. The bond strained. Pain flared sharply in my chest. Cashin's hand found mine immediately. The warmth returned. Stronger. Steadier. The tremor slowed. Darius's expression darkened slightly. You cling to proximity, he said. We cling to truth, Cashin replied evenly. Alara's eyes filled briefly. You always choose her, she said softly. I shook my head. This isn't about choosing. It always is, she whispered. The land trembled again. But this time, I didn't pull back. I stepped closer to Cashin fully. Not hiding. Not doubting. Choosing. The silver mark flared bright. Brighter than before. The tremor stopped completely. Silence fell over the clearing. Darius's smile vanished. Alara stared at the glow on my wrist. Realization dawned slowly in her eyes. It's stronger when you stand together, she whispered. Yes, I said softly. Darius exhaled sharply. This is not over. It rarely is, Cashin replied calmly. Ridgefall withdrew slowly once more. But this time, they left without laughter. Without satisfaction. As the gates closed, I exhaled shakily. Cashin turned toward me. You doubted. Yes. You stood anyway. Yes. He brushed his thumb lightly against my knuckles. That is strength. I looked toward the treeline where Alara had disappeared. She's not fully theirs, I said quietly. No, Cashin agreed. She's still choosing. The bond between us settled again. Stronger. Not fragile. Tested. And for the first time since my identity was revealed, I understood something clearly. They could not break the bond from outside. They could only fracture it if we turned away from each other. And I had no intention of turning away. Chapter 10. The Sister Who Returned. Ridgefall did not attack. They waited. 3 days passed in tense silence. 3 days of patrols. 3 days of whispered rumors. 3 days of the bond holding steady, but watchful. On the 4th morning, a single rider approached Veilheart gates. Alone. No banner. No escort. Just one figure cloaked in dark fabric. I knew before the guards announced it. Alara Hale requests entry. Cashin looked at me. This is your choice. I know. The gates opened slowly. Alara rode inside without ceremony. Without pride. Without audience. When she dismounted, she looked smaller than I remembered. Not defeated, but tired. We met in the central courtyard. No warriors gathered this time. No public stage. Just stone. With truth. I won't kneel, she said immediately. I'm not asking you to. She studied me carefully. You've changed. So have you. Silence stretched between us. Darius doesn't want partnership, she said finally. He wants fracture. I didn't answer. She continued. He placed the obsidian shards. I saw him. The confirmation was not surprising, but hearing it hurt. He planned to weaken you until Veilheart elders questioned your legitimacy, she said. And then he would offer protection in exchange for authority. Destabilize. Then control. Cashin stepped closer but remained silent. Alara's gaze shifted to him briefly. You were right, she admitted quietly. He didn't look triumphant. Only steady. You are not Ridgefall, he said. He swallowed. No. The wind moved softly through the courtyard. I thought if I aligned with them, she continued, I could regain something. You don't need to regain anything, I said softly. You think that because you were born for it. The words didn't sting this time. Maybe, I said, but I wasn't raised for it. She hesitated, then asked quietly, Does it feel different here? Yes. How? Like the ground knows my name. Her eyes flickered. That's how Crescent felt to me. The truth settled between us. We both belong somewhere. Just not in the same way. I don't forgive you, she said again. I know. And I don't forgive them either. That was new. Our parents. The why. The switch. The secrecy. Cashin spoke quietly. Ridgefall will not accept this peacefully. Alara nodded. I know. You'll be targeted, he continued. She lifted her chin. I'm not afraid. I stepped closer. You don't have to be alone. The words were simple, but heavy. Alara's eyes shimmered briefly. You still want me here? Yes. After everything? Yes. Because unity stabilized the land. But more than that, because she was still my sister. Even if not by blood. Even if by choice. A horn sounded from the northern watchtower. All 3 of us turned sharply. A messenger ran into the courtyard. Ridgefall troops are advancing, he shouted. Of course they were. They had lost leverage. Now they would try force. Cashin's posture sharpened instantly. Positions, he commanded. Warriors moved swiftly into formation. Alara stepped beside me. Looks like he didn't appreciate my departure. No, I said quietly. The gates opened just enough for visibility. Ridgefall soldiers lined the outer clearing. Darius rode at the front. He did not look pleased. You betray alliance, he called out. You attempted sabotage, Cashin replied evenly. Darius's gaze shifted to Alara. You were offered influence. I was offered manipulation, she corrected. The tremor began again beneath the earth. Stronger than before. Not unstable. Charged. Viz now. We stood together. Darius noticed immediately. You think unity protects you? He asked. It balances us, I replied. He scoffed. Balance is weakness. No, Cashin said calmly. Division is. The tremor intensified briefly. The silver mark on my wrist flared again. But this time, it wasn't just mine. A faint glow shimmered beneath Alara's skin too. She gasped softly. "What is that?" Elder Mira stepped forward behind us. "Shared lineage through oath," she murmured. Alara stared at her wrist in disbelief. "You carry Crescent's authority," Mira explained. "Not Veilheart's blood, but its alliance. The land recognized unity between territories, not dominance." Darius's expression hardened. "You cannot merge claims." "We are not merging," I said steadily. "We are standing." The tremor deepened once more, then settled into steady resonance. The mountains echoed softly. Veilheart warriors straightened instinctively. Not forced. Grounded. Darius realized something then. Force would not win this. He studied the formation carefully, then turned his horse. "This is not finished," he said one last time. "It rarely is," Cashin replied calmly. Ridgefall withdrew. Not victorious. Not triumphant. Just calculating. When the gates closed, silence followed. The tremor faded completely. The land was steady. Balanced. Alara exhaled slowly. "You were right," she said quietly. "About what?" "It's stronger together." I smiled faintly. "Yes." Cashin stepped closer. His presence calm. "Certain." "You stood," he said softly to me. "You trusted." He lifted his hand gently. This time there was no ceremony. No crowd. No announcement. Just 3 territories watching quietly. "Do you accept this bond?" he asked quietly. "Without alliance pressure?" "Yes." "Without obligation?" "Yes." "Without doubt?" I looked at him, then at Alara beside me, then at the mountains beyond. No doubt. The bond sealed deeper, warmer, complete, not forced by ritual. Chosen. Alara watched us silently, not smiling, but not broken either. The storm had not ended. Ridgefall would not disappear. Politics would not soften. But something had shifted permanently. I was not the wrong sister. I was not the hidden child. I was not the spare. I was Veilheart. And I chose my bond. And for the first time, it felt like the right life. I was never meant to be Luna. I was never meant to rule. I was never meant to stand in the center of 3 territories. But the moon does not ask permission. It reveals truth. And when it did, it didn't choose the perfect sister. It chose the hidden one. The storm has quieted. The bond stands unbroken. But Ridgefall is watching. And power never rests for long. This was not the end of my story. It was the beginning of the life I was born for. If you want part 2, stay with me. The moon isn't finished yet.